Okay, so let's talk about something pretty incredible. Tucked away in your neck, there's this tiny butterfly-shaped gland. You might not even know it's there, but it has a surprisingly massive job. It's your thyroid, and it's secretly running the whole show, influencing everything from your energy levels to your heartbeat. Today, we're going to unpack its amazing story.
So, let me ask you this. What if the master control for your body's entire operating system was this one tiny gland? It sounds kind of like sci-fi, right? But it's the reality of our biology. And when this little engine doesn't get the fuel it needs, well, the consequences can be absolutely enormous.
Yeah, think of the thyroid as your body's engine control unit. It's the thing that's constantly fine-tuning your metabolism, making sure you're burning fuel at just the right speed. It sets your body temperature, it keeps your heart beating in a steady rhythm, and it even plays a huge role in your mood. It is, no question, the body's master controller.
But our story today isn't just about biology. It's about a public health crisis that affected an entire nation. This is what happens when that master controller is starved of a crucial nutrient on a massive scale.
So what's the fuel we're talking about? It's a simple element, iodine. The thyroid's whole job is to pull iodine from our food and use it to make its essential hormones. Without enough iodine, the entire system just starts to sputter and fail. And that condition is known as iodine deficiency.
And wow, this data gives us a really stark snapshot of that crisis. Just look at these numbers from Turkey back in 1999, right before a major intervention. In the Aydın region, over half, that's 56% of school children had goiter, which is a visible swelling of the thyroid. In Bayburt, where the deficiency was severe, it was still 42%.
And the national average? A staggering 31.8%. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Nearly a third of all school kids were showing visible signs of this deficiency. We're not talking about a small, isolated issue. This was a full-blown, nationwide epidemic of hidden hunger.
But that visible swelling, the goiter, that was honestly just the tip of the iceberg. The real human cost is just devastating. For an unborn baby, it can mean stillbirth. For a child, it can impair mental and physical development, robbing them of their potential. And for adults, it led to goiter, hypothyroidism, that's when your body's engine is just stuck in first gear, and reduced mental function. The bottom line, this was a crisis that was literally stealing the future from entire generations.
So, faced with this overwhelming evidence, the country had to act. And what they did next? Well, it turned into one of the most effective public health wins in recent history. The solution? It was surprisingly simple, but the impact was huge.
And this timeline really shows you just how fast things can change when there's a will to do it. Between 97 and 99, the studies come out laying the problem bare. Then, boom, in July 1999, a mandatory law is passed. All table salt must be fortified with iodine. And by 2007, the results were in, and they were nothing short of incredible. I mean, just look at this case study from Ankara, the capital city. Before this program, the goiter rate was 25%. A decade later, iodine levels were totally sufficient, and the goiter rate had plummeted all the way down to just 1.3%. That is an absolutely stunning turnaround. Just wow. And it wasn't just some lucky guess, right? As the official guideline itself puts it, the data revealed the problem and demonstrated the necessity of a smart, controlled, science-backed program. It's like a textbook case of public health working exactly as it should. Okay, so the big crisis was solved. Widespread goiter? Pretty much a thing of the past. But that success shifted the entire conversation about thyroid health. It brought a new, much more personal challenge into focus, one that a lot of us might deal with today. Yeah, with that big public health battle won, the front line of thyroid care moved. It's not really about preventing goiter in millions anymore. Now, it's about understanding and managing something super common, the thyroid nodule. Yeah, a little lump in the gland. And when I say common, I mean incredibly common. Get this, modern ultrasounds can find these things in up to 60% of adults. But, and this is the really important part, of all those nodules they find, only about 5% are actually malignant or cancerous. The vast majority are totally harmless. So that leads to the big question, right? If you're one of those 60%, how do doctors figure out which lumps are the ones to worry about? How do they know what's what without causing a ton of unnecessary panic and procedures? Well, they do it with smart, data-driven systems like this one from the American Thyroid Association. It's actually pretty cool. Doctors look at the ultrasound and sort the nodules into different risk levels. You see benign,
The risk of cancer is less than 1%. No biopsy needed. Easy. But if it has some really suspicious features, it goes into the high suspicion bucket with a risk of 70 to 90%. That one definitely gets a biopsy. See? It's a super logical way to separate the signal from the noise.
And this is where the whole story comes full circle. Because that journey from a massive national crisis to this kind of sophisticated, personalized care, that's not a coincidence. Nope, the two are directly connected.
Think about it. That huge effort to solve the iodine crisis, it didn't just fix the problem. It created this massive pool of data and expertise. And those lessons, that hard-won knowledge, became the foundation for the super detailed guidelines doctors use today for things like thyroid nodules.
And that's what's so cool about the source material for this whole explainer. This TMD guideline, it's the perfect example of that. It's not just some dry textbook. It's this living, breathing document that takes the best advice from all over the world and combines it with decades of its own unique, hard-won national data. It's the best of both worlds.
So, in the end, why does all of this matter? Because the story of a simple element, iodine, and this tiny little gland teaches us something huge. It shows us how these massive, data-driven public health wins from the past are the very things that make today's precise, personalized medicine possible. It's a great reminder that behind every smart medical guideline we have today, there's almost always a story of a really big problem that we, together, figured out how to solve.